What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm back with another video, and this time we'll be discussing one of the most intriguing rivalries in NBA history, that is Michael Jordan versus Brian Russell. And if you're a hardcore NBA fan, you're somewhat aware of this rivalry, but I don't think you understand how deep it actually goes. This rivalry right here was a 25-year feud that had tons of twists and turns, and overall, it's one of the weirdest rivalries in NBA history. Now, before I get into the video, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to do so, and if you could like this video, I would greatly appreciate it. So with that being said, let's get into the video. So, like I said before, this rivalry is one of the weirdest rivalries in NBA history. You have Brian Russell, a second-round pick from Long Beach State, going up against Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time. And the origin point of this rivalry comes in 1984 at the Bulls practice facility, as Jordan at this point was retired, but he still was playing baseball and occasionally would drop in at the Bulls practice facility. And here's the brief story of the first time Jordan ever met Brian Russell, who at the time was a rookie.
When I was playing baseball, Utah was in town to play the Bulls. They're practicing at the facility. I go over to say hello to John and Carl. And this kid, Brian Russell, comes up to me and says, "Man, why you quit? Why you quit? Man, you knew I could guard your ass. I couldn't, you had to quit." I said, "Carl, you need to talk to this dude, man." Nah, he's just a young rookie. But from that point on, he's been on my list.
So definitely a bold first impression by Russell, and Jordan later on would say that this specific encounter actually motivated him to make a comeback. So Russell, in a weird way, had a huge impact on Jordan and NBA history. And like everyone knows, Jordan would eventually come out of retirement in '95, but it wasn't until '96 these two players met on the court for the first time. And right before the tip-off in Utah, Jordan approached Russell and asked him about the first time they ever met in '94. And he told him, "This is your chance to lock me down." And unfortunately for Russell, that would not be the case, as Jordan had 44 points on 53% shooting. Now the silver lining for Russell is that in this game, he had 17 points, the most he ever scored versus Jordan, and the Jazz won this game by 5 points. Now fast forward a year, and the Jazz and Bulls are once again two of the top teams in the NBA, and as fate would have it, they would meet in the NBA Finals. Now in Game 1 of this series in Chicago, Jordan would have 31 points on 48% shooting, including the game-winning buzzer beater over one Brian Russell. And for the first two games of the series, Jordan had his way, averaging 34.5 points per game on 51% shooting. But over the next two games, both of them being in Utah, Russell would do a fairly good job of locking down Jordan, as in those two games Jordan only averaged 24 points per game on 40% shooting. And after that Game 4, a reporter asked Jordan how good Russell's defense was, and Jordan made a sarcastic remark, "Is it Brian Russell or Byron Russell?" And once again, Brian Russell would make the mistake of aggravating Michael Jordan, as he would respond by saying, "Is it Michael or Michelle?"
Now, on the one hand, you got to give Brian props for not backing down, but on the other, yo, B, that's Mike.
And if you know anything about Jordan, you never give him added motivation or added fuel to beat you. And unfortunately, Russell did exactly that, as in Game 5, Jordan would have 38 points on 48% shooting, and he would have the dagger three-pointer, giving the Bulls a Game 5 victory. And it wouldn't get much better for Russell in Game 6, as Jordan had 39 points, including the game-winning assist to one Steve Kerr, and the Bulls would win the championship in 6 games. Now, luckily for Brian Russell, that would not be his last chance of guarding Jordan in the finals, as the following year, '98, both the Jazz and Bulls would make it back to the NBA Finals. And through the first 4 games of this series, the Bulls were up 3-1, and heading in Game 5 in Chicago, everyone thought the Bulls were going to clinch the championship in that game. But Russell and company would do just enough, as Jordan only had 28 points on 34% shooting. And this right here would set up a Game 6 going back to Utah. And I'm pretty sure all of us know how this game ends, as Jordan had 45 points, including the iconic shot over Brian Russell, which sealed the deal and gave Jordan his 6th championship. And that shot right there is an iconic moment in NBA history, not only for Jordan, but also for Russell. As for the rest of time, Russell is going to be known as the guy who got abused by Michael Jordan multiple times in the NBA Finals. Now this one-sided rivalry would not end there, as 5 years later, Jordan was a member of the Washington Wizards, and not only was a player, but also had a role in management and roster construction. And it just so happened that Brian Russell was a free agent who Jordan signed to a 1-year deal. And luckily for Russell this time, Jordan was not abusing him in games. This time it was only in practice behind the scenes. And one of the best stories of these practices comes from one Brendan Haywood, a teammate of Jordan at the time.
You don't want to do that. So most guys kept it PG with MJ. We did have Byron Russell on the team, and he would consistently try and challenge MJ in practice, but it was MJ was just so much better than him, man. It got to the point where it was embarrassing because he would talk to MJ, and then MJ would just turn it up, and he'd be on one, and he would just be cooking them. Like, I remember in one practice, like he told, like after hitting the game-winning shot on Byron Russell, he said, "Man, stop trying to guard me, man. You're known as the human highlight reel, not because you have any highlights of your own, but because you're in all of mine." I mean, I'm just like, oh, that's just so hurtful because he's hit so many game winners on Byron Russell. So to say that, it was just like, boy, please shut your mouth.
So 5 years later, Jordan was still giving Russell the business, but this time it happened to be at practice and not in games. And the 2003 season will be Jordan's last year in the NBA and would finally end the Jordan versus Russell rivalry, at least on the court, as 6 years later this rivalry will once again come to the forefront of every NBA fan's mind. As in 2009, Jordan was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, and near the end of the speech, Jordan would talk about players who pushed him to become greater. He mentioned Bird, Isaiah, Magic, and a host of other Hall of Fame players. But near the end of the speech, he would mention one player who changed his career forever. That was Brian Russell, and there was one line from the speech that really stuck out.
Ever since that day, he got his chance. I don't know how succeeding he was, but I think he had his chance, and believe me, I relished on that point, and from this day forward, if I ever see him in shorts, I'm coming at him.
Now, to any normal person right there, Jordan was simply joking by saying that, but there was one person who took that very seriously. That was Brian Russell, as he would unofficially accept this 1v1 challenge from Jordan. Now, Jordan would never respond to this 1v1 like Russell would want, and he went to some very extreme lengths to finally get his revenge. He conspired a plan with a local D-League team and got their owner on board to set up this 1v1 match of Jordan versus Russell at halftime. And this game was in Utah, and it was promised that Jordan would be there for this 1v1 game. So with that being the case, 8,000 fans packed the stadium for this one G-League game to see two 50-year-olds battle it out on the court. Now, like I said, Jordan would not show to this game, so Russell and his associates got a fake Jordan imposter to show up to this event. And once the fans realized Jordan didn't show up, they would boo Russell, and they would boo the owner, promptly leaving the stadium and asking for refunds. But that one event right there shows how crazy Brian Russell was and how desperate he was to get his revenge. And I think this rivalry, if you want to call it that, is one of the weirdest and strangest rivalries in NBA history, and it's definitely the most one-sided rivalry of all time, as Jordan constantly got the best of Russell on the court as well as off the court. But I will say Brian Russell was actually kind of inspiring, as he was a second-round pick out of Long Beach State, and he went head-to-head versus the greatest player of all time. Not many people have the confidence to do that, and even fewer people have the confidence to trash talk that player. So if you're looking for a silver lining in the story, I would say that's the case, but all in all, Jordan definitely won this rivalry, as Russell got embarrassed numerous times. And if you want to look at the tail of the tape for this rivalry, Jordan averaged 32 points per game on 47, 28, and 84 splits. Russell averaged 8 points per game on 40, 43, and 72 splits. And Jordan had 4 40-point games versus Russell and scored over 30 points 14 times. And out of all their meetings, Russell never outscored Jordan in a single game. And the one last thing to note is that Jordan's last 40-point game on the Bulls came in that Game 6 versus Russell. And his first 40-point game on the Wizards once again came against Russell and the Jazz. And I'm just taking a wild guess, but I think Jordan definitely had some bad intentions when they once again met with him on the Wizards. So that right there is the end of this video. I thought this topic was a very interesting topic, as Brian Russell is single-handedly responsible for some of the biggest events in NBA history. He motivated Jordan to come out of retirement. He trash-talked him in the finals numerous times, producing some iconic moments. And overall, this 25-year feud is one of the greatest one-sided rivalries in sports history. So with that being said, as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.